Hey, Tar Pit crew, thanks for tuning into the Tar Pit Podcast, your go-to spot for all things Carolina football. Did you know you can also catch full episodes of the Tar Pit Podcast on Spotify? If you haven't already, make sure to check us out and follow us today on Spotify for all the latest UNC football coverage. Need fresh game day gear? Swing by the Shrunken Head Boutique or Tailgate by Shrunken Head on Franklin Street. Use code TARPITPOD for 15% off your entire order. Anytime, in-store, or online at shrunkenhead.com. All right, let's get into it.
What's going on, Tar Pit crew? Welcome back to another episode of the Tar Pit Podcast, and you already know what it is, your go-to spot for all things Carolina football. Look, do us a favor, just like you just heard right there. If you got a Spotify, head on over there right now, open it up on your phone, type in Tar Pit Podcast, hit the follow button, the notification button, and leave us that 5-star review if you so wish or want to. If you don't want to leave a 5-star review, just don't leave a review at all, right? So but anyway, we'd really appreciate it if you supported us over at the Tar Pit Podcast on Spotify. We got JJ Jones back with us tonight, former UNC wide receiver. I think he's having a little bit of Wi-Fi connection. He just got kicked, but I think he's gonna get back in here as soon as possible. But Troy, get in here. How we doing, my guy?
Man, I'm feeling great tonight, bro. JJ gets back on here with us. I'll be glad to have him on and kind of get his thoughts on what he thinks Carolina needs to do to make it three wins in a row. And look, I said it last night with Connor O'Neill of Deacons Illustrated, I think it is. It was a great sit down with him, guys. If you missed that, be sure to go check that out on YouTube and on Spotify. Great sit down with him. A lot of Wake Forest intel that we were able to gather last night. But look, I said it last night with him, man. I think these two teams really stack up well against each other. Both offenses are seemingly a couple steps behind the defense for both teams. I think it could be another game like we saw in Charlottesville for Wake Forest last week, and another one for Carolina where, the defense, puts both teams in positions, and it's whichever team capitalizes on those opportunities the most. I could see it going that way. I could also seeing it being, more of a heavy defensive battle where it's, which defense breaks. But, we'll get to that in a little bit, what we kind of expect from both units on both sides of the football. So I'm excited. Look, it's a great opportunity for Carolina to get a third win in a row. And at this point in the season, with 3 games, Chris, you said it the other night, or last night, we need to win 2 out of 3 to get a bowl game. Obviously winning all 3. It would be nice, but one game at a time mentality. That Belichick said that in his press conference on Monday or Tuesday, I believe it was, about, we're not focused on bowl eligibility. We're not focused on, the other 2 games, in-state games. We're focused on Wake Forest, and that's kind of where they're at with it. So I'm excited to be there in Winston-Salem. I enjoyed my trip to Winston-Salem a few years ago when I watched you guys, JJ, sew up the Coastal, the old Cam Kelly pick, there to end the game. I don't know if you guys heard me that night or not, but I was the one leading the Tar Heel chants every field goal y'all had, and there was quite a bit of them. I think Josh Downs went for like 3 touchdowns that game.
Oh yeah, no, he went crazy that game. I mean, that was the last ACC Coastal title for anybody in ACC history. So I mean, that's always something I get to hold on to near and dear. It's awesome.
JJ, it's good to have you back, bud. Let's talk about this a little bit. Your podcast is not just with the Tar Pit Podcast once a week, right? But you're also talking about some Carolina basketball, which I didn't know is like kind of like your first love, right? So that's pretty cool. But tell us about the Chapel Thrill Pod, talking Carolina basketball over on the Field of 68 Media Network.
Yeah, nah, man. Join me and Hunter Caparelli on the Chapel Thrill Pod. We're streaming on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitter. I just want to hear about some UNC basketball. I know you probably are very, very intrigued about how this team is doing now with Seth Trimble out for the next 6 to 8 weeks, coming off of a huge win against Kansas. They're off to a 3-0 start. Just talking about some basketball. Football season still. This is the main priority. We're still in football season, but if you want to get a head start, listen to some basketball, listen to some good talks, and just having on guests every other episode we have, man. To make sure you tune into the Chapel Thrill Pod, sponsored by Field of 68.
Yeah. So how can they find it again? What do they type in? Just Chapel Thrill Pod?
Yeah, just type in Chapel Thrill Pod, whether it's on Google, Twitter, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. You'll find that there. If not, just go to the Field of 68 Media Network and look for UNC basketball, and you'll find it right there.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So let's get into it, guys. JJ, I'm gonna kick it to you first, man. What's your thoughts about Carolina right now, and just coming off a win against Stanford, struggled throughout the first the first half there. I mean, it was like peeling out my eyeballs. It felt like, man, it was just brutal. But hey, Gio turned it on like he's done throughout the season a few times in the second quarter, man, and came away with a win. We labeled that one a slugfest. What's your thoughts? Coming out of that game. JJ, can you hear?
Yeah, nah, man. I don't know what my Wi-Fi trip right now. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, I'll pick it.
All right. Bet.
Yeah.
Nah. Yeah, you
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. You go ahead. Let me fix this Wi-Fi real quick.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, man, I'll kind of piggyback off of what JJ was going with that, man. We got a little technical difficulties going on tonight, folks. But I appreciate you guys.
Just froze, bro.
It's all good. He'll get it worked out and jump back in here, man. But honestly, from the Stanford performance, I said it last night. I thought the defense, during this 4-game stretch has been the reason why Carolina's been able to win, 2 of the last 3 or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Coming off of 2 wins in a row, looking to make it 3. So if I was to take anything away from the Stanford game, it would be, and Belichick's harped on it, this week. He did when he met with the media. I think it was 2 days ago. Those 2 2-minute drives that Stanford was able to execute, and they were able to get, Elijah Brown in some kind of momentum and march down the field and get points away from it was, something. I know at that point in the game, it would have taken a lot for Stanford to come back and win it or make it interesting. But, you give him the ball back with, just under a minute left, anything can happen, right? He's a busted coverage away from sprinting up the sideline, and we're having a totally different conversation. So I think with the defense, there's some things that, and Jake Dickert for Wake Forest said it the best in his press conference on yesterday, that when you're playing good, don't beat yourself pretty much. You're playing solid defense. Don't let something that's that you've kind of swept under the rug or got away with the last couple weeks come back to bite you in this week. JJ, good to have you back on, brother, man. So,
yeah, man. Life is always about fixing things and always having adversity. How to make a quick change of scenery. But we're good to go. We're back.
Man, yeah. I hurt your feelings so bad on the mama's curtains in the back that I made you move to the garage, and then the Wi-Fi wasn't good enough down there, huh?
Yeah, nah. So I was like, let me get back out the garage, and we're gonna keep finding different spots, but I think this is the spot for right now.
Go back to the curtains if it messes up on you again.
The curtains.
Yeah, go back to the curtain.
Get back to the curtains.
No, JJ, before you had to take care of that, man, Chris was wanting to know what your thoughts were surrounding Carolina, off their win against Stanford going into this game against Wake Forest. I was in the midst of telling them, that the defense, got to continue to play well. The thing that did alarm me in the Stanford game was the 2 drives that Stanford was able to execute late in the fourth quarter, to really get within. I think he just dropped again.
Yeah.
My word. Anyways, I talked about defense. Offense, you got to start fast. You gotta put points on the board early. I can understand if we had a 20-3 lead going into the fourth quarter, you know what I mean? And, you took your foot off the gas, this, that, and the third, but you didn't. You started slow, and then you were able to put points on the board, and then Stanford was able to make it interesting there at the end. So, offense, you've got to give the people some kind of hope that you're able to get some kind of consistency going. The issue with the offense, in my opinion, is their inability to sustain drives. it's a headache right now. It's a burden on us. It's one of our weakest links, other than getting down in the red zone and the 6-yard line and only walking away with 3 points. So we'll get into everything else a little bit more, but in a nutshell, kind of where I'm at with it going into this game is what I was just saying. So JJ, let's get it, bro.
Yes. Okay, finally. Yes. I think, like we alluded to earlier, that first half was very, very am I good? You hear me? We're good again. All right, bet. I think that first half in general was kind of like very, very iffy for me. Like you said, peeling of the eyelids, eyebrows, whatever you want to call it. 3-3 is not a great way to start the game. But I think when it came to that second half, they kind of had that spark. But I do think offensively, we kind of need to make more plays. I know Jordan Shipp had that long touchdown, but when you think about it, he had to break a tackle to really go and score. We don't have any big explosion plays on offense. I think the defense is always going to hold it down. They've been holding it down for the past few weeks. They look amazing. I think Abujide looks like probably one of the greatest rushers in college football by far. They did their job on the back end in terms of defense. I think they get Thaddeus Dixon back this week, which should be an amazing opportunity.
Yeah,
questionable.
He's
If
questionable.
Mm-hmm.
And Caleb Cost is questionable as well coming into this game. Okay. So that'd definitely be interesting to follow. But all good.
As
all
a
good
player,
there.
when you have the go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
You got it, my guy.
Yeah, now as a player, when you have these last 3 games, you have Wake, Duke, and State. Even if you are hurt, I think that we should more than likely see those guys out there because these are the games that you sign up for, the games you come to Carolina for. So like you said, I know they're questionable. I hope I see them out there on this weekend. I'm excited to see how they look. I think they add a whole lot of more, lockdown in the secondary. I think Thaddeus takes out probably half the field. But I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, hey, that is that guy for sure.
To your point, JJ, we'll see how this team handles these in-state games. We've got 73 new players on this roster. I don't want to sound like we're beating a dead horse or bringing that back up, but that's the reality of it. And a lot of these guys, like we've got a few guys that have been at Carolina that know what these in-state rivalries mean. Shipp and Kobe and guys like that, Marcus Allen, Tyler Thompson, who's playing well right now. Blasky, even he's a newer guy, but he knows what these in-state rivalries mean. We'll see how the new faces in Chapel Hill, Gio and Kamori House and guys like that, Andrew Simpson, Melcart. We'll see how they take these in-state rivalries because I fully anticipate Winston-Salem, Wake Forest, that stadium to be pretty electric. 4:30 game.
Absolutely.
4:30 game. I always enjoyed going to Wake Forest. That was one of the reasons why I was glad this game fell the day after my birthday. My birthday's tomorrow, fellas. So just FYI, we're gonna make a weekend out of it. I'm going to the basketball game tomorrow. We're going to Winston-Salem to watch football Saturday. Look, we say it all the time at the Tar Pit. You want some people. You want to listen to guys that are locked in with what's going on in Carolina football. You're talking to 3 of them right now. We got another one that keeps up just as much as the other, us 3 here up on the screen. So it don't get no better than this. We're in tune. We're up to date on everything. We go to all the games, damn near about it. So it's we're locked in over here.
Yeah, for Wake Forest, their fan base has kind of had that same over the past few years, right? That same mentality of kind of just not showing up throughout the year sometimes, unfortunately, right? I mean, of course, not us. Definitely not you, JJ, with you being on the field, right? But us 3 with Trevor and Troy. But going to Troy's point, I expect that stadium to be electric, not just for the reasons of Carolina's going to be there, right? And it seems like when Carolina goes places, regardless if their football team is not doing well or not, just like basketball, other campuses seem to turn out more, right? And not just to that point, being a 4:30 kick, I think is a great point as well. A lot more fan participation. It's a great day to get out, go eat some food, wet your lips with whatever you like, whether it be liquor or water, or some drinks before the game. But I expect the stadium to be electric for the reason that this is a team that's now 6-3, right? And we're picked, way down towards the back end of the ACC coming this year. Now they're coming into this game 6-3.
Connor said
should be should be 7-2, not 6-3, with that one of the BS calls that unfortunately they had when Georgia Tech was visiting them. Is that right? Georgia Tech, Troy. So yeah, I think it's going to be a lecture, but let's go ahead and get in here. Let's get a little bit more narrow. Let's talk about the offense a little bit more. Our offense, well, let's talk about what our offense needs, what we feel like they need to do, right? To help the defense. They just simply haven't, while they've done enough, right, over the past few weeks to secure some of these wins. I would definitely like to see some more consistency. This offense still across the board in a lot of the main categories ranks towards the bottom, right? The EPA margin. And by the way, there's some of the statistics that I look at. And one of the models that I look at, and I know why Troy's smiling right now. He's smiling on the way that I'm not say the word stats, but Wake Forest has a 64.5% win probability with UNC at 35.5%. So I would just like to see, what Troy said coming into this. I think it was you too, JJ, is that settle Geo in early, right? I don't know why I keep hoping and thinking I might see more RPOs, right? Or quick throws and getting some crossing routes early, get more of the tight. I've been screaming to get the tight ends more involved since week 1, right? And it just for some reason hasn't happened. But what's some of those things that besides those two things that I just mentioned that you feel JJ Carolina needs to do to kind of help secure a win and back the defense up the way they've been playing over the past few weeks? I think JJ might be. Is JJ frozen again?
I think so.
He is frozen. So, Troy, I'm going to kick it to you. What's some things that you feel like Carolina needs to do on offense?
Man, honestly, kind of where my head goes with this is they got to do a better job at taking advantage of field positions. Defense in the kicking game has proven, and I emphasize the kicking game because our special teams, Tom McGinnis has gotten his work this year. I mean, our offense and the inability and the inconsistency that we've seen has led to more punts, and he's been killing it, man, with what he's been able to do and putting the defense in great positions in terms of field position. You're starting to see the defense take advantage of those situations in field positions and holding, the offense to to very limited, ground game and whatnot. And we'll get into defense here in a little bit, but the offense has got to do a better job at playing more complementary football. If the defense and the kicking game is putting you with great field position, you've got to show some kind of life and the ability to convert that into points. And I guess the biggest red flag to me from last week is getting down to the 6-yard line and having to settle for 3, and then Kamori House goes out there and makes a hell of a play, gets a pick, takes it to the 30, and you still walk away with 3. So their inability to take advantage of those opportunities is something that in a game like this, I think you've got to be able to get over that hump. I said, another thing to really help the team as a whole and Carolina, not just specifically the defense, but you've got to start faster. Like, I've applauded Freddie Kitchens on his abilities, and whatever they're doing at halftime the last 2 games, it's worked, right? But to Trevor's point, what can't you do? Why can't you do that to start the game? Right. And that's a kind of I've stirred on that the last 2 days since Trevor posed that, since Sunday, when me and Trevor had that back and forth. I have challenged myself in that question. Why can't we do it? I've tended to lean more of the fact that Carolina goes into the game with the mindset of establishing an identity and imposing their will a little bit more and seeing if it sticks. If they come out and they're running the ball effectively, and you're able to sprinkle in some big explosive plays, through the passing game, why shy away from that? That hasn't happened in the last 2 games, right? They've made whatever halftime adjustments they've been able to make has worked great, but I do think you have to start out faster. I do think that would help us in a lot of these situations. And maybe Belichick, and I heard this from time to time, man. I'm a wandering mind, right? Like I'm a sponge. I pride myself on being that. Like I'll listen to other people talk about Carolina football that have a way better understanding of football than I do, to really kind of expand my knowledge and therefore, be able to recess and regurgitate some of the things that I pick up into talking to our viewers. So, Doc Staples over at over at IC, he does a lot with Florida State too, but he specifically talks about Carolina, and I shout him out specifically. I love what they do over there because he goes in depth a lot. I love his film breakdowns that he does. Obviously, with their merge to On3, I kind of quit looking at their stuff a little bit. No fault of their own, nothing like that. I haven't, been able to look at their stuff in more detail. But, in terms of breaking down plays, because that's really what I use it for, is their film breakdown. Because I'm a film junkie. I'll turn on and watch. I'll watch the game at least one time over, and then like a condensed version of it after every game. But one of the things that he said is maybe Bill has that much confidence in his defense and against some of these lesser offenses of saying, okay, hey, if I can get to 20 and I can hold, I feel good enough about my defense being able to keep them from scoring that many points. You get where I'm saying? Yeah. So, I do think if we start the game against Stanford 20-3, then they go on a little run, then we're having a reverse conversation here, right? Okay, what does the defense need to do to keep them from scoring and getting within 5? You know what I mean? Offense scored 20 points. Defense has to hold up their end of the deal. So I just think there needs to be you need to start fast. You need to get Gio in more of a rhythm. I know I'm going on a little rant here, but I've stirred over this the past couple of days because Trevor's question, me and him having that back and forth really opened up my eyes and opened up my mind a little bit. That's one thing that'll help is starting out fast and taking advantage of opportunities that the defense and the special teams give you. If you can do that, and you can establish an identity early in this football game, I think Carolina has a really good chance to win with the way our defense is playing. Now, I do think Wake poses some different threats, and we'll talk about that here in the defense and what Wake does on offense that are a lot different than what Stanford and Syracuse bring or have brought to the table. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm actually not ready to get to that question, but really quick, it's good to see Devin in here. Thanks for joining us. Jason from PA, we had a great opportunity to meet him and his son that came down from Pennsylvania and saw us at 140 Social. Appreciate you tapping in. JJ, this is our guy that asked where you were at, so we'll have to get you some thoughts.
Yeah, man. I apologize to all the fans out there watching. This is so unprofessional. This thing never happened to me before. I don't know. I just like completely had I went Hulk mode when I got off, but we're good now. We're on Wi-Fi.
You're straight now, dog. Like
we're good.
There's no lag in you talking or nothing like that. You're good.
Okay, that's perfect. I'm good.
My man's whole internet melted down.
That was the craziest thing ever. I almost lost it. We're good now.
I can't laugh because I'm known to drop off. I'll probably drop off here in about 5 minutes, but you'll see me jump on quick because I got this mobile hotspot on lockdown, son. I'm ready to roll in a drop of a hat.
But this is the comment I wanted to get to. I apologize, but I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that full YouTube name. But 9816 there, they're always in here, and I really appreciate you supporting the channel. But this is a really good point, leading up to tonight's episode and last night that we had with Connor. If you didn't see that, our YouTube, we've had some tech issues this week. Our YouTube stream crashed while we were live last night, but it's up now. If you haven't seen it, be sure to go ahead and tap in on that. But looking at this comment, this unfortunately, and this isn't any shade at Trevor, but he's always like, I feel like for the past 6 weeks, it's been like, this is our get right game. This is our get right game for Carolina on the offensive side of the ball, specifically at the QB position. But unfortunately, looking at Wake, I'm not saying it's not possible. I mean, anything's possible in college football. I mean, once that whistle blows and the ball is snapped, a lot of times stats and statistics and win probability, stop, Troy, go out the window. Right? So, looking at 98-16 right here, this comment is spot on. Unfortunately, this week, if you look at Wake's defense, is one of the best in the conference, which is unbelievable to me that this Wake head coach comes in and completely turns around this program this quickly, right? Sitting 6-3, has transfers out the wazoo, just like Carolina, but some reason they've been able to make it click, make it work. But this defense is dominant. They're good at stopping the pass. They're good at stopping the run. And so I really believe if Carolina, unfortunately, is going to have success on the offensive side of the ball this week, it's going to have to be on Wake having some type of breakdown on the defensive side of the ball. But JJ, man, I've tried to give you like 3 opportunities to get in here and get some thoughts. But finally, my guy, it is your turn. Take it away. What do you feel like Carolina needs to do on the offensive side of the ball? I'd like to start out with this question. I know it wasn't on our prep sheet. We got like 3 or 4 pages of notes here that Trevor actually, I think, did for us. Well, Trevor always does a good job on notes, but I think he felt bad for not being able to be here tonight. So he, knocked out some really good notes. But the question that I have for you, JJ.
My bad, fellas. I'm sorry. I thought I was muted.
As a college wide receiver, right? When things aren't going well, and when the ball, because I remember you, right? I mean, I would hope so. It was only like the last 4 years, right? With the ball in your hands at a player like you have the opportunity to flip the field and change the game as a wide receiver. But when things just aren't going your way at whatever it be due to play calling or the quarterback position or something like that, how do you keep your head above, right? How do you stay level-headed? Because if you really look at a game, like, it's 4 quarters and it seems like it's a long game on TV if you're watching or there in person, but there's only but so many chances that ball's hiked for the offensive side and the defensive side. So what's it like for you? That's where I'd like for you to first start. Someone like Jordan Shipp, how do they stay positive and make sure that they're ready leading up to the game and during the game?
No, I think I'm probably the worst person to ask that question. I there was a lot of times where I was really, really upset when I didn't get the ball. But I think for Shipp, I think of him as me. I think we're both we just love Carolina. We want to do anything we can for Carolina. We want to go out there and make as many plays as possible. I think it's hard though for a college wide receiver to just stay level headed when you're not getting the ball. But at the end of the day, it's a team sport. In terms of if you don't have the ball in your hands, I think Coach Lonnie Galloway, who was my receiver coach, told us something. 90% of the game, the ball is not going to be in your hands. So what are you doing with that 90%? That's how you can, improve yourself on the field and, get your better draft stock is what you're doing without the ball. So for these guys, if they're not getting the ball early on, and I know UNC's offense has been really stagnant, especially in the past, probably this whole season in the first half, outside of like the first drives, just go out there and, make your blocks, make sure you're doing your assignments, because whenever you least expect you're going to get the ball, that's when you get the ball. And that's when you start having easy drops, bad MAs, wrong routes, bad communication between you and the quarterback. So it is definitely tough to just stay level-headed. But for, guys like Shipp and Kobe and anybody else in the receiver room, you got to understand the ball's going to find you eventually. It's not whatever happens when you get the ball. It's what you do with the ball whenever that ball does get to you. Like with Shipp the other day, he caught that curl route at 15. He was able to go make a man miss and go score. And that's what you have to do. You got to make the most of all the opportunities you can get with the ball, especially in this offense.
Yeah, and that's something that to piggyback off you, JJ, that's something that Belichick really emphasized in one of his most recent press conferences. Is they've emphasized that receivers being able to do gain those yards after catch and making the most of their the most of their opportunities with the ball in their hands. That's something that they've, and he mentioned several players that have used that, Kobe, and I think it was a hitch pattern that he took down to the 1 yard line against Virginia or Syracuse, one of the two. And then obviously Shipp, breaking across the middle of the field this past weekend against Stanford. So it's something that they put an emphasis on being able to create those plays in the pass game. Obviously, I think Carolina has tried to, is rolling with the identity of being a run first team, and really getting the running backs involved, whether it be, true handoff fashion or getting them involved in the passing game. Because we've seen Davion Goss catch a pass on a wheel route last week. And that was a game that Carolina truly rushed for only 50 yards, I think it was, against Stanford. But you see, and we've talked about it, who's going to be that guy this week that steps up. Last week, I think it was Davion. I mean, he had a hell of a game and was able to get involved in more ways than one. I think he had 11 carries for maybe 50 yards, give or take, or something along those lines. It wasn't much, but he was a difference maker in the passing game. So it's a testament to, just a week by week approach with this staff. They're able to plug guys in and get some production out of them. And, different weeks, it seems to be a different guy. And, that shows you that they're true to their word, and it being a week by week approach. What they do against Stanford isn't what they did against Stanford isn't what they're going to do against Wake Forest, and vice versa. You know what I mean? What they did against, Virginia, they didn't, or Syracuse, they didn't do against Stanford. So it's going to be interesting to see what product rolls out. We're obviously giving our opinions on what we think they need to do to come away with the win. And I gave my spiel on it, but it's going to be interesting to see. Because Wake, like you said, Chris, Wake is a stout defense, bro. I mean, they're legit. They're 6-3 because of their defense.
Yeah.
If you
solely.
If you don't believe me, go back and watch last week's game against Virginia. Their defense shut Virginia down, forced them to play the field goal game, and they had a hell of a punt return from in the special teams. That was the game. I mean, that was it. I don't even think that they relied on 2 50-yard field goals. I mean, Wake Forest on offense doesn't do anything really special. They've got some guys. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, but it's a game that if Carolina wants to do well, the offense has got to get moving.
Yeah. So Troy, you mentioned the word stout, right? So, leading kind of around this question too from 98-16 here is that, this is a physical defense, specifically talking when I hear the word stout, I think about their DBs, right? Their DBs have been known to shut down receivers and blanket the field. Connor from Deacons Illustrated talked about that last night. They don't follow receivers around. They just control, their side of the field at a position. But JJ, I wonder, I know every receiver has their different skill set, right? Some are physical off the line. Some are more run and gun, slot, I guess turn it on and burn, whatever the words you want to use, right? I felt like you had a little bit of everything, a mixed bag, right? But your game definitely stood out to me as a receiver that was physical. There was I think one of the hype videos or mixtapes on your Instagram that I've used in the past, right, to hype you up, or I put it on Twitter when we announced that you were doing one episode a week with us. And I remember watching that back, and it was so cool to see you just push DBs off you, right, to get to the goal line. So what do you feel like, what can receivers do on the Carolina side when they're facing these types of DBs that are physical from the Wake?
Yeah, I think honestly, technique is a lot. It's gonna be very, very crucial this week in terms of just your technique is gonna what makes you win battles. I mean, for some guys are stronger than others. I mean, I kind of used my size and my strength and my ability as best as I could. I wasn't as shifty as a lot of other guys, but at the end of the day, if you're going against a really good corner who's playing man press or if he's playing zone and you have to go against him the whole game, you have to rely on your technique, because at the end of the day, the football is 4 quarters. Everyone's going to be tired. It depends on how you work on your technique, especially against these Wake DBs. They are big. They are strong. So with that happening, I expect a lot from the slot, because from them, I don't see a lot of slot man press, especially for a slot receiver against Wake Forest. So this is the kind of game where there might not be shots downfield, but you got to take advantage of all the holes and the gaps in the zones that they play. And you have to make sure you're completing every pass that you make. This is probably going to be a really big game for, slot guys like Ship or, anybody that they throw in the slot, because you're going to have space to make things shake, be able to operate, make some yards after the catch. But like I said, I don't think there's going to be a lot of super explosives. This is going to be one of those
really long games where you got to run the ball. And when you have the opportunities to throw it over their head, you have to capitalize on those opportunities because they're not going to come often in this game.
Yeah, I'm talking with JJ Jones and Troy here. We're the Tar Pit Podcast. This is the Tar Pit Playbook. We've given you our take other than score more points, right? What Carolina needs to do to come away with a win at Wake Forest. JJ, I want to kick it back to you briefly because I love talks like this. You know, one of the things about having Bryn on and you on, right, is and also Troy playing college ball as well is going in a little bit deeper than some other shows and podcasts do, right?
Yeah.
You know, having the opportunity to pick people like y'all's brains is invaluable. So when you say technique, right, and the DBs are physical, I know what technique is. Like every wide receiver has them, but what type of techniques usually work best when it comes to dealing with physical DBs?
Definitely. Releases at the line and just using your arms, using your hands to beat the press. I mean, when you have a strong DB, most of the time, a lot of DBs they're one way guys unless you get to the league. But in college, if you're a strong DB, that is your strength. You're not very lateral. You're not good on your feet. So when you have a strong corner pressing you in these games, your technique of your releases are going to have to work. You're going to have to show some misdirection at the line of scrimmage. You're going to have to jab him one way, get him moving off his feet because these strong DBs, once they get a hold of you, then it's over with. Then you're getting jammed to the sideline. But if you work him off of his line, get him on his heels, then you are controlling the game. You're controlling the tempo. You got to think, as a receiver, you know what your route is. So a DB's already in a misadvantage. They don't know. They don't understand where you're going. So being able to use your misdirection at the line of scrimmage, using your hands so he doesn't put his hands on you, that's going to be like the greatest opportunity and the biggest thing for these guys is getting off press. I think as long as they get off the press, they're going to be fine. They're going to have to be physical. And I think, you know, the coaches at UNC, they have instilled a lot of physicality with this team. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. But like I said, just being technically sound at the line of scrimmage, in your routes, getting in and out of your breaks on time, that's going to be the biggest thing.
Troy, get in here. Let's close out the offensive side of the ball. We're 40 minutes in. If you're watching us tonight, we appreciate it. Be sure to do us a favor. Hit the follow button, subscribe button, whatever platform you're on. We appreciate it. Help us out. Share the stream. Give it a good old retweet. That'll definitely help it get out there for people to see it. Troy, got any other thoughts on the offensive side of the ball before we switch to the defense?
Yeah, man. Just real quick, I jotted down some notes while I was, we were going back and forth here. But to kick it back, the word stout. You gave your expression. In my opinion on the word stout, you took kind of a more physical approach, but which is cool. They're a very physical defense, but I'm thinking in terms of being disciplined. I use that as a factor when I think of a stout defense, not just the physicality and them able to hit you, but from a discipline and being assignment discipline and fundamental discipline. They're very strong all around. They tackle well, they fill their gaps well, they cover well. JJ went, you guys alluded to some of their strengths on the back end of their defense. For me, with the Carolina offense, I think the key to success is you have to sustain drives. And you have to finish drives. I think with this defense that Wake is putting on the field, we've seen Gio have statistically some super efficient games. I think he was 18 for 25 last game against Stanford for like 209 yards passing and a passing touchdown. While the product on the field from him and some of the decisions that he makes have been, frustrating to say the least. We can have that conversation, at another time, and we have before. I think this is a game, man, where he's got to really take the charge and really string together some drives. Wake, and at receivers, you guys talk about beating them off the line of scrimmage, and when you're going up against a good corner. I think back on when Carolina faced Cal and what Cal's defense was and what we were able to do against Cal. We found weak spots in their defense, in their zones. And Carolina, I feel like, has since that game at the receiver position, and not just at the receiver position, but the skill positions overall have done a great job since that game and making the most of their opportunities. And especially the last 2 games. We've seen you guys talked about yards after catch. I mean, I just talked about, what they were able to do the last 2 weeks and a bit making, the coaching staff putting a big emphasis on that. But I think you've got to get Gio in some kind of rhythm early. You've got to finish drives early when you get down into the red zone. If you're able to string together a 7-8 play drive and you get down with, inside the 10, hand the ball off to Big 12 or somebody. Show some competency in the red zone to be able to finish drives. I think a lot of our frustration with the offense, and like last week, you get down to the 6-yard line. It wasn't the fact that we settled for 3; it's how we settled for 3. It was stupid. Like they run a QB sneak, like Trevor said it. They ran a QB draw on like 3rd and 13. I mean, how dumb is that? So you got to show some kind of life on when you're down there on the red zone, man. You got to finish drives. You've got to put receivers in positions. Freddie Kitchens has got to draw up route patterns to find soft spots in these zones when they're dropped back in coverage. And even when they're even when they're in man on man, I think they're playing man coverage. I can see Kobe having a field day this week. I really do. Let him beat him in the slot, force these linebackers to cover. And I like Kobe's chances in the slot. I really, really do. I think he has a breakout game. Chris, if you want to clip this, that's cool. I'll go on record. I think Kobe has a
clip people.
No, you don't. I know you don't. I'm just saying we want to put my breakout player for this game. It'd be Kobe. I think he
Clip it.
Clip it.
Clip it.
I don't want to give anybody any what am I trying to say? Any persuasion to clip me. I promise. I am not clip material.
You have said a lot that's clip material. Just saying, my guy.
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah.
Hey, I do think Carolina, though, in terms of offense, and then we'll switch to defense. JJ, you said it. You got to win the battle at the line of scrimmage, whether it's on the offensive line or out at receiver or whatever. You've got to win at the line of scrimmage, and you've got to win at the point of attack. I think that's the secret to Carolina stringing together some long drives, and could be a difference in the football game if we can get our offense going.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a trench battle this week, especially with, Wake Forest is a great D-line and, the way Blasky's played and just, like I said, it's going to be a trench battle. This isn't going to be one of those, eye-popping pass down the field, big explosion play kind of games. It's going to be slow ground and pound. If you like the way old football was played, this can be the kind of game you get to watch.
Yeah, I got to preface this. I am a firm, Blasky truther, believer. That's my guy. I think he has had he's caught a lot of flack over the past, past 2 weeks, I guess you could say. And I guess some of it's maybe warranted from people like us that are, podcasting or not on the field. But, and we try to always be respectful about it. But, unfortunately, Carolina struggles on early downs, right? And they get themselves in, 3rd and long a lot of times, and they're just not the type of offense that can afford to be in that. And something that's really shot us in the foot are those offensive penalties for the past 2 games. And I feel like it may be my fault, guys. I'm sorry.
You
I feel
jinxed us.
I jinxed them
Led
going into the weekend at our game day live show. I led the show off and strong arming us, talking about how great the team's been penalty wise, right? I think I talked about it with you on last week, JJ.
Yep.
Right? Because I feel like that was something that not everybody was talking about. And then last week it was a disaster in the first half. And that's something this offense cannot afford this week. Because that Wake defense, that Wake front, they're whatever how you want to use the word stout, you can use it for both ways that we talked about tonight. They force teams in 3rd downs and long in 3rd, and this offense cannot be put into that. Let's spin about.
They shown They shown an ability to get off the field on 3rd down against Virginia. I've been of the impression with Virginia's offense lately that they weren't what they were at the beginning of the season. But nonetheless, Wake was able to put them in some pretty strong 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3 situations. And Wake, and even in some fourth down situations, if I'm not mistaken, they were able to get off the field. But it was a grudge match last week in Charlottesville for those 2 teams. So
I hate to do this, but let's try to spend about 10 minutes on the defense. And I say I hate to do that because like that's the group that's been performing the best. Man, like look at JJ. He's gotten super comfortable.
Hey, I'm gonna drop off real quick, fellas. I got something going on beside me. I got to tend to real quick.
Oh,
I'll
Lord.
I'll let y'all lead in the defense. I'll be right back.
We having all kinds of stuff going on tonight. But you know, I just want to say the Carolina girls, I got the game on beside me, 15-12 right now. Carolina's up with 5 seconds left in the first quarter, playing number 3 UCLA in the tournament over there over in Vegas.
That's awesome.
That'd be a massive win. Now it is 15. Hold on, let's watch this together. 2 seconds left. Ooh, what a bucket at the buzzer. 17-12 Carolina after the first.
There we go.
Everybody knows.
Love to see it.
If they watch this show, my family, we're big Carolina girls supporters and men's. We go to all the games, or we try to anyway. But let's talk defense here. JJ, what do you think? You know, I honestly, I don't know if there's much to talk about here, right? And this might be an opportunity for a Wake fan to clip me, right? Because their offense has been just slightly better than Carolina, and that's honestly not saying much.
Yeah.
Right. So, but I just feel like this is the type of season that we've had that Wake would somehow use Trevor's words and get right game. Right. But I just don't know if there's much to talk about in this segment other than the quarterback for Wake has just not performed well over the year. He's a dynamic runner when healthy. He's been banged up throughout the year. You know, Connor made a lot of great points. If you want to go on and go back and catch that episode from last night, it's now on Spotify and YouTube. But their running back, he's a 4-year guy, right? But that's very unheard of. Definitely when you have a coach transition going into your senior year, right? He reminds me, that type of mentality reminds me a lot of Jordan Shipp, right? A Carolina guy through and through. So their running back is a guy that's the leader of the team, right? We talked about him last night. So what's some things that you feel like Carolina needs to do to on defense to help continue to contain that Wake offense?
Like you just said right there, the number one word is contain. You got to be able to contain Robbie Ashford, the quarterback. He's not that dynamic of a thrower, but in terms of just the plays he can make using his feet, kind of reminds me of Haynes King a little bit, be able to make plays on the ground, not a prolific thrower. He's not Haynes King, in my opinion. I just see the Georgia Tech, and that's big Haynes King fan. But like I said, I think the running back
down though against State.
That was sickening. But like the great running back room. I mean, like you said, 4-year starter running back. He's definitely the catalyst of this offense. But like you said earlier, there's really not to talk about. There's no, I guess, prolific guys on that offense where it's like, okay, we need to make sure we contain this guy right here. He is their playmaker. You know, I think the running back is the leader by default just for being there for so long and, you know, having the best stats out of everybody on the offense. I think there's going to be another trench battle. I think our defense, there's going to be a defensive game by far, and it's going to be a defensive game. But, you know, there's nothing really that stands out about the Wake Forest offense that kind of concerns me that our defense can't handle. And with, you know, guys like Dixon and Koss questionable to come back, I think this will be kind of one of those games. Like I said, very low scoring game, hard-nosed football, especially between two pretty solid and really good defensive teams in the ACC.
I mean, I think with and then I'll get you in here, Troy, is that I think, you know, I really want to see Thad if he's healthy enough to go, right? This is the game that I would like to see him get back into, just because you do have, you know, some tougher competition coming up on the offensive side of the ball with Duke and State. So I feel like if that is healthy to go, of course, put him on a snap count, but let's get his legs going a little bit, going back to game speed again before we get into Duke and State. That's only if he is healthy enough. But Troy, you know, same question like for JJ. What's some of the things you like to see? I feel like this defense, man. You know, Tyler Thompson, Melcart. I know that Tyler Thompson knows, you know, like going back to what you were saying earlier in the night, you know, these matchups here in North Carolina mean something, right? And definitely these three do. Tyler Thompson knows what that's like. Melcart wasn't here last year, but I felt like Melcart's that type of guy. It's on no matter who he's playing, right?
Yeah.
It might not always be in the stat sheet, but that doesn't mean that it's not on here and it's not on in the motorized way, right? But also a lot of the North Carolina recruits that are in the 26 class that are here this year, they know what it's like June, right? He's a North Carolina commit, right? I think from back east. So, I mean, he grew up around this. He knows what it's like. He's going to see the field. So, but Troy, I'm going to kick it to you, man. What's some of the things you're looking for on the defensive side of the ball?
Really just to kind of keep, or continuing to do what you've done the last 4 games. Bryn posed a great question Sunday night. At what point do you, as a defense, and I found myself feeling bad for the defense against Stanford, specifically in the first half, where like the offense was just like couldn't get any rhythm going, and the defense just had to keep taking the field, and I guess. I was confident every time the defense took the field. I didn't really see a lot out of Stanford that, within the first couple possessions that really alerted me where I'm like, okay, our defense is going to get tested with this. And throughout the course of the game, I kind of eased off a little bit on their offense and, considering the way our defense was playing and our ability to get in the backfield and whatnot. But, this is a Wake Forest offense, man, that is certainly better than Stanford and Syracuse. I put them kind of in the same category, maybe slightly better than Cal. I know some people in the comments might chime in on that and maybe disagree with me, but I think Cal and Wake Forest stack up well in terms of talent. You look at their quarterback, he reminds me a lot of Saga Politele from Cal. I think this game could very well be I said it right. I said, go ahead.
Well, does JJ think that's a hot take?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a hot take, and I'm just surprised he said his name correctly.
Well, you said Haynes King, and I see the comparison there. I think Haynes is probably a little bit better passer than Robbie Ashford.
Wait. I must have missed that. JJ, did you say that they're like similar QBs?
Who? Haynes King and Robbie Ashford.
Yeah.
In terms of running the ball,
he said that was
running
the ball. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
In terms of ground and pound kind of quarterback, that's who you see. Now winning, absolutely not.
I was like,
I do think as a total, like a whole package, I think he reminds me a lot of the Cal quarterback, and we saw what Carolina was able to do, and the offense reminds me a lot of Cal's offense. There's not a lot that really scares me a lot. Obviously, their running back is somebody that's a playmaker, right? He's dangerous when the ball is in his hands. He fights for extra yards. He's a guy that you've got to tackle and get on the ground immediately, or else he's gone down the sideline for 20, 30 yards, or maybe even a touchdown. I mean, he's lethal. So I think Wake's going to try to get him involved a lot more. You look in the passing game, I think Robbie Ashford's a little inconsistent as a passer. He's only thrown 3 touchdowns and 5 picks. And I think I saw somebody in the comments say he's only thrown 1 touchdown in the last 3 weeks. And I think that was around Halloween time. So right here, our guy that we can't pronounce his name, 9816, threw that in the chat. So, Wake's has an offensive line. I think they've only been sacked. I think Robbie Ashford's been sacked 8 times. Deshaun Purdy's been sacked 4, so a combined 12 sacks going into this game. Stanford had given up like 20 plus or something like that, or Syracuse, one of the last 2 opponents. So I think that contributed a lot to our success in getting in the backfield. And, a lot of what we're seeing with Tyler and Melcart are their progression in, their individual game, their individual pass rush and their ability to get in the field, in the backfield. Bill said that in his presser. Those guys have worked hard. I'm not discrediting them. They've been on a tear the last 3 to 4 weeks. We're going to see, this is going to be a tough test for them. I feel like the next 3 opponents we're going to really see what our defensive line is about, because Wake's got a pretty solid offensive line. Duke's got a pretty solid offensive line. We know what their quarterback can do. And State's probably got the best offensive line to me from what I've seen from our last 3 opponents. State's probably got the best offensive line out of our next 3, but we got Wake on tap. So we're focused on them. I'm anxious to see how much pressure we get on Robbie Ashford. Excuse me. he is a guy that you got to contain. He can beat you with his legs. We got to tackle. I feel like our tackling's gotten a lot better in this 4-game stretch. We got to continue what we've been doing these last 4 games. There's some things we got to tighten up, but it's a game that I think if Wake's offense can get going, it puts the pressure all on Carolina's offense to be able to score points. Like Doc Staples said it too. Like, I feel like Belichick's got a number that he's going into. I'm like, okay, if I can get to 20 or 25, I feel good about my chances to win that game. Like Duke, I think he said it was like 42. Like, do you feel comfortable getting to 42? Like, do we feel comfortable our offense can get to 42 and win the game against Duke? Like, so what that number is this week, I don't know. I'm not going to try to guess, but I think with the defense like we've got and some of the deficiencies that Wake's got on offense, I like our chances, especially if our offense can show some kind of pulse and some couth about them. Y'all like that word? That was free. I think this is a game that Carolina can win. They've just got to play right on both sides of the football.
I think, talking about what type of points Carolina needs to have to win a game like this, that seems like it's more of a, not just Carolina, but across college football this year. It just feels like, or maybe it's just me, but I feel like that's been more of a topic this year. The stats that I was looking at coming into tonight and a lot of the different
I like this dude right here.
Yeah.
I think he might be a Wake. I think he might be a Wake fan, low key.
No, they're always commenting on our videos and watching
our
videos.
Are they?
Yeah.
Well, no disrespect, my guy. I appreciate you, or gal, or whoever you are behind this username. We appreciate you tuning in to us tonight.
I think he's talking about Wake's offense there.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. I think he just may be a realistic Wake fan. That's what I was thinking until you said that.
But talking about projected points, a lot of the models that I've been looking at, like stat wise, what has Wake sitting around like probability of scoring around 23 points, right? So I would say that Carolina would probably need 26 if that's true. However, I did write down a couple of I guess you could call it UNC's path to victory for a game like this going against Wake Forest. I believe that without a shadow of a doubt, we need another defensive performance like we had against Stanford. We got to get that defensive line cooking with Tyler Thompson and Melcart on the edges and in the middle of the defensive line, holding their gats and staying true to their assignments. I'd love to see some opportunities for our offense to play with short fields, right? Try to get it some turnovers, special teams. Coming in big, they've done great throughout the whole off season. And I'll say this, and some people might go, that's a bad thought. I say this, I would like to see, and I would think it would help them win this game, is to have some explosive plays on the offensive side of the ball, because Carolina has done such a bad job on the offensive side of the ball, having long, sustained drives. They'll get to midfield a lot of times, and they'll get a penalty, or they'll have play calls that don't make too much sense, and then they're in a 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12. And this offense just doesn't work. It seems like that great, right? In the 10, in the 3rd and 12, 3rd and 15. Not many do, right? And it's definitely not worked great for Carolina this year. So I'd like to see some explosive plays on the offensive side of the ball to help overcome that. And the last one I'd say is to relate to that is stay out of 2nd and long and 3rd and long. If we do that, I think we will have a good opportunity going in the Wake. If we don't, with the way Wake's defense is playing, it's going to be a long night.
No, absolutely. Especially like you said, with the explosive plays. Like, I can think I'm like, the last explosive play I can really remember was that 60-yard pass to Chris Culver against Charlotte. We haven't seen those type of explosive plays in so long. And when you think of this team scoring, I mean, yeah, we have some wheel routes. We had a wheel route to Bullet that scored, but when you think about it, all the passing touchdowns we've had is, we're getting guys open space, but they're making the plays. They're making guys miss to go score. So we haven't seen nothing where it's nothing over the top, no 60, 50-yard bombs that are making these big explosive plays. And like you say, that's what I'm waiting to see, and that's what we need in these last 3 games. And I know you're not supposed to look ahead, but at the end of the day, if you're a true UNC fan, you don't want to just win one. You don't just want to win two. You want to be able to go through this, win the state, and win all three.
Yeah, and that's a good point, JJ. I think that if this team wants to go to a bowl game, I hate saying this, that means dropping one either to Duke, to State. You got to win Saturday. Just the way this team's been playing. I'm just being a realist, in my opinion.
Absolutely. It definitely comes down to you have to win this game, especially this weekend. And then, unfortunately, if you lose one of those two, you still are bowl eligible. But I think Belichick and, every UNC fan, we don't want to have that standard of just reaching bowl eligibility. But
right,
this is the game. You have to win this game. A loss this weekend does not look good. It doesn't look good heading forward. But yeah, this is the kind of game where you have to win.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely doesn't look good. And I mean, we could have a podcast just around this, right? It doesn't look good that Carolina potentially has double the amount of NIL dedicated to their roster this year. Probably not double, but probably maybe 40% more, right? I can't remember what Connor said his projections were for their Wake's roster, but I mean, they even lost a recruit to us, right? CJ Mims, East Carolina, committed to Wake, decommitted, came to us. He's played well for us this year. So you can have a whole podcast around that, that I didn't think that we would be sitting at this point in the season thinking about, do we reach bowl eligibility or not, regardless of who the coach was, kind of, because of the amount of money we put into this team. And then you could also have a whole other podcast. You could just throw in names like, why are we not seeing Chris Culliver? Why are we not seeing players like that run down the field on the wide receiver routes? Why are we not seeing them utilized in the special teams? And I know you guys know I can get on a little ramped up a little bit, but these are the types of questions that people message us. Why are we not seeing Chris Culliver? And someone specifically on TikTok sent us a message and asked us, why are we not seeing him? Can you figure out why? I'm like, my guy, like, I am not that connected to just roll up. I mean, we know people, but we don't have that type of authority, of course, right?
Yeah.
But I just don't know. Like, Chris Culliver can be a game changer, right? He can stretch the field. He had a touchdown on special teams in the bowl game last year. It's just mind-blowing to me. He has that one of the only explosive plays against Charlotte this year, something that we desperately need. And then
need to find somebody who can take the top off on this defense. And we haven't really been able to find that guy. I mean, Ship and Kobe aren't really those kind of guys to, take the top off. They're more, I'm going to get open, I'm going to find the ball, I'm going to make sure I catch the ball, and I can make a play after. But, I mean, Chris is that kind of guy where you can take the top off. And like you said, so that could be a whole different podcast. I don't even want to get into it because it makes me mad. But,
Tucker's that guy, but he's really young.
Yeah, he's young. He's buck 50 wet. He's got some time to get stronger and get bigger. But yeah,
I know people were like trying to flame me on Twitter because I was like, I don't, even though I'm a Tucker believer, right? I followed his recruiting very closely and was glad that he committed, two-way sport athlete, committed to play baseball at Carolina as well. I just didn't like that personnel choice. Going into the second half, I believe that was against, I can't remember whoever it was now, but against Virginia. I just didn't think that was the right personnel choice. And I touched his hands. Guys, like, as a receiver, that's a very difficult catch to make. Regardless if it touches his hands, there was a DB lodged up in between there in his hands, in between his hands to his body. Anyway, I can keep going. We're already at an hour. I'll let you guys have any last final thoughts before we close it for tonight.
If
I bored Troy there for a little bit.
No, dude, as many rants as I go on, brother, you got the green light anytime you want to. I'm known to have some pretty long-winded moments on these podcasts, but I guess for my final thoughts, man, it's offense. I would love for you to start fast. I know that's probably a tall task or tall order to ask, but, considering the opponent and Wake Forest, I think this is the best defense we've seen since Cal, to be honest with you. Virginia, they have a stout defense, but, Carolina was able to do some pretty good things against I'll take that back. It's our best defense since Virginia. And I think Virginia and Cal are pretty tit for tat. on defense. And I think Wake Forest is solid. They're a respectable opponent. It's a respectable defense. Their offense is going to have to really really look to get over the hump this game and really capitalize on some moments that I expect our defense to put our offense in. From a defensive standpoint, I think you've got to be aggressive. You've got to put some heat on Robbie Ashford, but you've also got to respect his ability to run and get out of the pocket and extend plays downfield. I think if you can limit the damage that Claiborne does to you, he's a respectable opponent. I think if you can limit him and force Robbie to beat you with his arm, I like our chances because like our guy, in the chat said, he's a quarterback that's thrown 1 touchdown in the last month. And that was like back to Halloween. So limit the explosive plays, limit Claiborne on the defense, and offense capitalize on some of those, possessions and, your ability to flip the field. And I like our chances, guys. I think if we can grind this game out and get a good, hard fought win, and that'll be 2 road wins, in the last 4 games or something like that. Two road wins in the last 3 road games. I think that'd be something to hang your hat on. But we got to get there. They've got things they got to clean up, and we'll see what product they roll out this week. I'm excited for it either way. So,
JJ, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, no, I definitely think UNC is definitely going to come out with the W this weekend. I think, like Troy alluded to earlier, just the offense needs to be able to make plays and get started earlier in these games. I mean, they haven't done that probably all season, but in a game like this, you have to make the most of your opportunities, make the most of your abilities, limit the turnovers, limit the penalties, go out there, find your playmakers. And defensively, I like in the past few weeks that instead of guessing where like the players are going to be at on defense, they know their role, they know what's going to happen, they know where to make their plays. Defense continue to do their thing. Like I said, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, but at the end of the day, I think these guys know that this means a lot more, and that this is the catalyst win for these next few games. And got to win the state. Got to be able to win the state. At UNC, you got to be able to win every in-state game, and I'm excited to see these guys go out there.
Yeah.
Hey, I got one more thing I want to throw in here offensively. JJ, you bring up the penalties, man. We've got to offensively. You can't start drives behind the sticks. If you go out there and false start penalties, I mean, we've seen Ship get a false start penalty last week against Stanford. I think you shooting yourself, and I've talked about it. We've got to quit shooting ourselves in the foot and starting drives, 5 yards behind, the sticks. It sets you up for failure. And it's hard to sustain drives, especially with the offense that we've got when you're already starting behind the chains. So I think if we can limit that offensively, that'll help our cause quite a bit. So we'll see. That's all I got, guys. It's been fun.
Yeah. Good stuff. Hey, JJ, appreciate you tuning in with us tonight for another episode, of course, as you do every week. Sorry that you were fighting for your life, it seemed like, over there.
Oh, my goodness. That first half, that was tough. That looked bad. Hopefully UNC's offense looks better in the first half than my first half today. So we'll be good. We'll be good.
Yeah, it's all good. Troy, appreciate you, my guy.
Yes,
Look,
sir, brother.
I know that Troy's going to be there.
Me and Trev got to get tickets.
What? Gosh,
I've been waiting on Trevor, bro.
Oh, well, my
Thursday.
my wife and that's right. Tell him, JJ. My wife and kiddo, we got our tickets. We ready to rock. So it's gonna be a good time. I think
Rams Club.
Aren't you a Rams Club member?
No, I'm not actually.
Really? I thought you had to be a Rams Club member to
Make sure you sign up for the Rams Club, man. It's great.
Yeah,
Awesome
I know.
opportunity.
I've been on the phone with him about my investment. I have.
I thought you had to be a Rams Club member to have season tickets.
Dude, my wife's got me on so many subscriptions. We may be a Rams Club member. I don't know. I don't have the sticker, so I don't really deem myself unless you got one of those. So we may.
They haven't sent me a sticker in 2 years for some reason.
Yeah. I don't know. I may or may not be. Who knows?
Trevor just texted me, said I bought the tickets Wednesday, Troy.
Well, thanks, bro. I hope he bought mine.
He did. He said he brought the tickets on Wednesday. He said
Okay.
he's calling
All
you
right.
out through text messages. Oh, I love this. Anyway, all right, let's get out of here. Look, I'm going to just say it real quick. You know the deal. If you need that game day gear, 15% off Tar Pit Pod. Use the code Tar Pit Pod at Tailgate by Shrunken Head or at Shrunken Head Boutique on Franklin Street or online at shrunkenhead.com. JJ, you're awesome, my guy. We appreciate you. You'll be in with us next week. Look, we got Bryn Renner back on the podcast Sunday night. We'll be live for the post game, just breaking it down. He's gonna be on with us in the beginning, breaking down the offense. Man, we had a heck of a time with him last week. It was a good time, and I mean, like, look at the Tar Pit Pod, man. It's just growing. Like having JJ on here, bringing that expert knowledge, then Bryn hopping on with us, and we got some big things coming up too. Tomorrow, I know I said it yesterday, but I promise you, tomorrow we will be dropping how you can win 2 tickets to the Duke game and a $50 gift card to Shrunken Head. It's just going to be really simple. I'm going to post it on Twitter. All you're going to have to do is retweet it. Make sure you're following the Tar Pit Pod and comment under it and tag somebody in. That's all you got to do.
Last home game of the season, folks, against Duke. And you're able to get free tickets plus a $50 gift card to a business, a pretty deep and rooted Chapel Hill business on Franklin Street with some cool gear. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that to me. So be on the lookout for how you can win tickets and a $50 gift card to Shrunken Head or Tailgate. So I love doing that, man. It's cool connecting with the fans that way, or the followers, people that listen to us.
And last thing I'll say, and think about this. Look, you could use your $50 gift card and then get 15% off of it. Pretty awesome.
There you go.
Anyway, let's get out of here. Hopefully Carolina secures the dub and wait for us. We'll be there. If you see us, say hey. Until next time, go Heels.
Go Heels.
Go Heels.
Hey Tar Pit crew, thanks for hanging with us today. Quick shout out. Today's episode is powered by Untapped Sports Network. Big thanks to them for the support. If you like this episode, do us a favor. Like it, drop a comment, and share it with a friend. That kind of support goes a long way in keeping the podcast rolling. Make sure you're subscribed and following the Tar Pit Podcast on whatever platform you're listening on right now. And don't forget to follow us on social. We're on X, formerly Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search the Tar Pit Podcast and you'll find us. Until next time, go Heels.